Hey everyone, welcome to week 9. This is the final week in our unit on Reconstruction, racial uplift, and the new Negro. This week, instead of Reconstruction, we're going to be talking about deconstruction. So please make sure you check out the lecture video so that you can get a feel for all of the things that were going on in the decades of disappointment and the undoing of much of what had been done during the Reconstruction period. Our reading for this week comes from The Souls of Black Folk. I would love to read the entire thing, but I think that it's better to give you all just a taste of it right now and encourage you to go back and read the entire book yourselves at a later date. I think that's one of the goals of a survey class, is to give you tastes of different things. Plus we have 2 novels coming up that we'll be reading in their entirety. So this week, you're just going to read 3 chapters from The Souls of Black Folk. You're going to read chapter 3 of Booker T. Washington and Others, and chapter 6, The Training of Black Men, plus any other chapter of your choice. So just look at the table of contents, choose a chapter that looks interesting to you, and read that, and then respond in your journals like you normally do. Make sure that you're really thinking about the connections that you can make, not just to yourself, but to the previous texts. We started off the semester just connecting with our own experiences and ideas and thoughts and questions. But as we've added more texts in our repertoire of African-American literature, we want to start making connections between those pieces. So make sure that you're attempting to do that in your connections. And I will say that it has been really interesting reading many of your journals. They're very thoughtful and very interesting, and you ask some really good questions. So keep going with that. Yeah. The optional resources this week include a history brief on W.E.B. Du Bois, some reading about W.E.B. Du Bois from the History Channel, and there's also a short video there. And then there's the crash course, Black American history, in a comparison video on Booker T. Washington and W.E.B. Du Bois. So the last one, I would recommend waiting until after you've done your reading and watching that, so that it makes more sense as you read the comparisons, or watch the comparisons, unless you're like me and you put subtitles on or captioning on every video for some reason. Yeah. Anyway, so definitely check out these resources, the history brief video and the Du Bois reading part. Those are pretty short. And then the Washington Du Bois comparison video from Crash Course is, I think, 11 or 12 minutes long, so it's not too long. Right. This week, you're going to be discussing the reading that you did from Washington last week. So you're going to reconsider that definition of racial uplift. I asked you to construct your own definition based on the readings you've done so far, particularly Harper and Cooper. And neither one of them used the term racial uplift, while Washington does. And that is, I asked you deliberately to come up with your own definition, because I wanted you to start thinking about that. And then I wanted that to be in your mind when you start reading specifically about the concept, the idea of racial uplift. And then how does your reading of Washington modify or challenge your understanding of racial uplift? Do you have a completely different idea? Is it slightly different? Do you see how the previous readings kind of give you a context and a background for Washington's real focus on racial uplift. The other thing I wanted you to talk about is, what does Washington mean when he calls on white people of the South to cast down their buckets where they are? It's an interesting phrase, it's an interesting idea, and it's directed to white people. So what is he really wanting white people to do? What is the goal that Washington has in mind there? We're going to be continuing on with Project 2. So Monday afternoon, well, yeah, so Monday during the day, I will be going through your submissions of your topics and your possible reading text choices, and making sure that I can approve all of those or help you modify them if need be. And then you need to spend the rest of the week working, or however you want to do it, but sometime during the week, creating the draft of your project. So that you're going to be submitting your draft on Blackboard in your discussion groups by Monday next week, the 1st of November. So plan that out. Maybe if you are doing, for example, a PowerPoint or Google slide presentation, you want to plan out, how many slides you want to do at once, or if you need to do it all in one sitting, when are you going to plan that during the week, so that you make sure you can get that done. And the Project 2 video is still linked there. So if you haven't watched it yet, I encourage you to go ahead and watch that. Again, you were to have chosen a theme. Here were several options, but there are many more that you could choose from. And you are to choose 2 specific passages from the weeks 5 through 9 course readings, and then find representations in at least 2 other forms of media. And those, since we have video and podcast and television and such, obviously you can use more contemporary forms if you would like to, but you do have to have 2 different forms of media. They can't both be text or both be visual art or something. You need to have, 2 different forms. And then you are creating some sort of a document. It can be a Word document or a Google Docs document, Google Slides or PowerPoint or something, in which you share your questions, that your question that you want to pursue in understanding that theme, and sharing how the texts and the media that you've chosen represent that theme, and then using that to compose an extended definition, 2 to 3 paragraphs long, on the theme or of the theme that you have chosen as it relates to the African American experience, your understanding of that based on the work that you've been doing and the reading that you do and the listening that you do and any research that you do. You need to present that all together, and you have to include an MLA formatted works cited page. So make sure that you don't forget to include that. If you're doing, a slideshow, then just make a slide at the end with that. If you're doing a Word document or Google Docs document, just make sure that that's the last page. Right. So this week, you want to post on your discussion board about racial uplift and casting down your buckets by Thursday morning. You want to respond to your group mates by Monday. Your reading journals are due Monday, and your project draft is due Monday. So make sure you get those things done. And if you have any questions, please let me know. And yes, I do realize that this still says week 6. I don't know why I keep overlooking that when I'm trying to proofread. This is why you can't proofread your own work effectively. And there's no one else here right now besides my cat to do it. So I apologize for the mistakes. I will fix them after I finish recording and uploading this video. One thing to note, starting next week in weeks 10, 11, and 12, we're going to be reading Passing by Nella Larson and Their Eyes Were Watching God by Zora Neale Hurston. Neither of these books are available in the public domain, so I'm not going to link to any sources with them because that would be a breach of copyright, and I don't want to encourage that. But if you don't have the books yet, you need to make sure that you can acquire them this week so that you're ready to read them. You may be able to check out copies from the library. The GRCC library should have copies set aside on reserve, which to use reserve copies, you have to actually read them in the library. They can't leave the library. I do not know for sure if either of these are in circulation in the library. Last time I checked, they were not, but I have asked that they be put in circulation. I do not know if they've been acquired yet, so we can check on that. There may be other ways to acquire them. If you are good at listening to books instead of simply reading them, I have heard, but do not know for sure, that Passing is free to listen to on Spotify. I have something else playing on Spotify right now, so I don't want to check on that until after I finish listening to what I'm listening to. But if I find out more information about legit ways to read or listen to these without having to buy them, I will certainly pass that on to you. Another thing that's not in here, but I will give you that information next week, is that Passing is a new film, has been made into a new film that is going to be available on Netflix starting November 10th. And I was thinking that if anyone's interested, maybe some of you don't have your own Netflix or you'd want to watch it in a group, I could host a watching party via Zoom one evening, probably evening, I don't know. But next week I will send out a form where you can indicate if you're interested in a group viewing party and when would be best times for you. And I'll see if I can get something set up for at least the majority of people. I'm sure that it won't be possible to get everyone, but I'll do my best to get as many people as possible, or if anything, I can even set up 2 separate ones if need be, separate viewing parties if need be. So I'm pretty excited about it. I will be sharing the trailer with you next week, but I will say that Alexander Skarsgård is in it. If that's any temptation for any of you, it really looks, at least from the trailer, very well done. And then I know that Their Eyes Were Watching God has been available for free viewing on YouTube in the past. I have no idea if it still is. I haven't looked recently, but I will look when we get closer to actually starting that book. All right, I think that is all I have for you right now. Please let me know if you have any questions or concerns about anything. The sooner the better, so that anything that needs to be cleared up, supplied, whatever, can be taken care of in time to meet your needs. Right, and I hope you have a wonderful week.